talk about.
It's pretty interesting being at the Elsinore and actually seeing the theater from this perspective, because my first memory of when I was 7 or 8 years old was actually of going to the movie theater was here at the Elsinore. So that's pretty neat. And now I have a 7-year-old daughter, and until very recently, we would go on hikes in a forest designed to spot fairies. You know, the little mythical creatures of human form, but with magical powers. Now, of course, my daughter made sure that we were looking for the winged variety, native to Oregon's Central Valley and coastal forest. This was our version of birdwatching, and I'm serious. It was looking for those little imagined moments of the buggers whipping through the forest trailing their fairy dust. It was just fantastic. But that was it, right? It was those few imagined moments of us together in that forest. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with traditional imaginative play. In fact, it's critical. But I actually think it can be so much more. And I'll come back to fairy hunts in a forest in just a few minutes. But I think TED Talks should have at least some impressive sounding facts and statistics to ground what would otherwise be just really a purely fun and imaginative talk into at least something plausible. So, did you know that the art of moving pictures has been around for about 120 years? So the art of visual linear storytelling and our passive consumption of those stories has been refined over a good amount of time. And we, at least as Americans, spend an awful lot of our time passively consuming those stories. The average American will buy about 4 tickets to the traditional movie theater a year, and the average American over the age of 2 will spend about 35 hours a week, or about 1,800 hours a year, watching TV. And for the slightly less passive activity of playing video games, the average American 8 to 18 will spend about 13 hours a week, or 670 hours a year, playing video games. So it's an awful lot, so we're spending an awful lot of time doing just that. I think actually when I listen to speeches or when I read about the subject matter of film or television, an awful lot of time is unfortunately spent on things like the newest distribution model for film, bigger screens at our local multiplex, greater immersive surround sound, bigger 4K televisions or Ultra HD, and those sorts of things. And those are fun, right? But they have nothing to do with storytelling. They're fun to geek out on, and my friends and I do an awful lot of just that. But fundamentally, they're simply the technical delivery of substance and not the substance itself. I've used the word passive a few times already, and I think the word passive is important, because although when we're watching film and TV, we may jump in our seats at a scene in a scary movie, or we may slap our knees or laugh out loud when Will Ferrell rocks us with a magical moment of comedy gold, we're still fundamentally just passively consuming those stories, right? Now, of course, traditional film and TV has moved us to action, has brought us to tears, and has changed the way we think, because fundamentally it's powerful and it works, but I actually believe that we're on the threshold of a brand new genre of storytelling, and I call it augmented storytelling. But before we go into the real specifics of augmented storytelling, I think it would be helpful to understand what it is not. And you've heard a little bit about this from some of the other speakers today, but first, it's not virtual reality. Think of virtual reality as a computer-simulated reality, where the user wears a head-mounted display, and this is a picture of the Oculus Rift, and the Oculus Rift is currently the darling of the virtual reality hardware world, and was a recent purchase by Facebook for over $2 billion. Then the other thing there is a sketch of my daughter Dagny and how she would look wearing the sort of unwieldy Oculus Rift on her head. So in virtual reality, the computer simulates the entire world and then projects it onto screens embedded in the head-mounted unit. And the head-mounted unit does other things like track your head and positional data. But no matter how photorealistic that environment might be, in virtual reality, you are only virtually there. Your real self, back in reality, is most likely sitting, maybe standing, in a room somewhere, tethered to a computer. Next is Google Glass. And unless you've been living under a virtual reality rock for the last few years, you have a general sense of what Google Glass is, right? It's a pair of glasses, but with an optical head-mounted display. And unlike virtual reality, Google Glass allows the user to operate mostly normally in the real world. And that's because Google Glass overlays text and information and graphics on top of real reality. Then there's augmented reality games. And for those of you who have followed this in the past, or those of you who might be interested to learn more about ARGs in the future, I encourage you to at least read about the two I'm going to mention. First was the I Love Bees campaign that led up to, at the time, what was a very big launch of a retail video game called Halo 2. The second, which I don't have a neat graphic for, it was called The Beast, and it led up to the 2001 Stanley Kubrick, Steven Spielberg film, Artificial Intelligence. And the great thing about augmented reality games is it allows the player to engage and participate and often shape the story in a nonlinear way. And how is this done? It's done because the storytellers break the story up into little bits and pieces like a puzzle, and they sprinkle them around the internet and other media and even tangibly out in the real world. So when you're playing an ARG, you go out and you find the bits and pieces of the puzzle of the story and you assemble it. And what's really neat is, depending on the order in which you find these clues, these bits of the story, you're going to put the story together in a way that's wholly unique to you. So that's what augmented storytelling is not, right? And now, so imagine the near future where there's this convergence, where you have the technology between virtual reality, you have the Google Glass-like overlays, and you have some of the underpinnings and the structure of augmented reality games, and they've come together to form what I call virtual storytelling. So augmented storytelling. What is augmented storytelling? Well, I think the easiest way in some ways to understand it is to actually go back to the beginning. And it's a misty morning on that Oregon coast, and it's early, but the sun is up, and the light dapples through the trees above me and my daughter. She's cold, so she's zipping up her coat as I pull out our augmented storytelling units. I clip a belt on her waist that carries a black padded computer that's probably no bigger than 3 or 4 iPhones stacked together. And a single cord runs up the back, and it attaches to a set of clear glasses. Then I clip on my belt. You see, like Google Glass, we're present in the environment around us. We can see each other. We're together, and we're present, like I said. So I press the power button on her unit, and I press the power button on mine. And otherwise not interfering with the world around us, is what will be the beginning of our fairy fantasy story. Because you see, this forest that we're standing in, or a clearly defined area of the forest, has been previously scanned and plotted. It has hidden GPS units throughout, as well as tracking markers. Our units and our computers also carry GPS, and our head units carry positional and tracking data as well. So that the computer not only knows where we are within this forest, it knows where we are in relation to everything tangible in this forest. And like Google Glass overlays, the graphics and the interactivity is allowed to be projected on top of this reality. So my daughter looks up at me and I down at her, and we kind of shrug because we've never experienced this story before, so we're not sure how it even begins. Then she spots something deep in the forest, and sure enough, whipping through the trees and coming at us fast is a beautiful little fairy princess. And before we can even react, it's upon us. She's frantic and she's scared, she's being hunted, and she's telling us this because we can hear it in the earbuds. She's being hunted by a troll and needs our help. And then zip, she's off and away. My daughter and I look at each other, we smile, and we take off after her. Our fairy fantasy story that we're out doing together has begun. Now, imagine the creative freedom this will allow storytellers. And imagine, as a consumer, the adventures you're going to be able to have with friends and family out in the real world, not passively sitting back on a couch. storytellers can also write the stories to shift and change and split based on the decisions that are made in the moment by the people playing or experiencing the story, like me and my daughter. And once that forest has been scanned and plotted, others can write stories to it as well. Historians could walk us through what it might be like to experience a Native American camp as it existed hundreds of years ago. Military strategists could simulate battles, play it at night, and adults could experience a horror survival game. But not everything has to be frenetic or fast-paced like a video game type of story. It could be slow and plotted like a novel, broken into chapters and played on weekends over many months. Because really, the possibilities are endless. So for those of you who are interested to learn more and follow this in the future, I encourage you 3 things. First, of course, you can check out Google Glass. It exists. It's expensive, but it exists. Second, follow the upcoming retail release of the Oculus Rift. You'll be able to probably actually go to a Fry's or something and try it on your head at some point. And third, if you have a smartphone, I encourage you to go to the App Store and actually type in virtual reality or augmented reality games. There's some examples. Some of them are hokey, some of them are fun, but they'll all give you a general understanding of what virtual reality and augmented reality apps are like right now. But augmented storytelling and the technological underpinnings of that can do so much more and be so much more personal. So I'd like to leave you with this thought. My grandfather suffers from dementia, and although we're blessed that he's able to live with my mother, of course, she cannot spend every moment of the day with him. How fantastic will it be when the rooms that grandfather lives in have been scanned and plotted, and he can wear one of these devices and still be present in the environment that he is most comfortable in. A companion can be programmed to interact with him at a basic level and play the tile and card games that he loves so much. And I'm not talking about a creepy attempt at a photorealistic rendering of a human. I don't think that would be appropriate. But how about something simple like a robotic orb that could float around the environment that has a cartoon rendering of a face and could interact with him at a basic level when no one else is there? I believe in those moments that he lives in every day, because he lives in the moment to moment, that would help improve his quality of life. And actually, depending on the quality of the games and where the person, like someone who suffers from dementia, is at on the continuum, I actually think it has the potential to improve their mental functions as well. So thank you for spending a few minutes with me imagining the near future. And I encourage you to stay engaged and evolve with it as it becomes reality. Thank you.